Welcome back to Style Esports. This is season 18 of the playoffs here in Tier 5, known as the Void. This evening, we have two Titans facing off here. We have SAIT Trojans versus Drop Dead Gaming's team DreadKnights. My name is Llama. Alongside me for the cast this evening is AllOutPotato. And we're bringing you best of three here for these two squads in the first round of the Rumble stage in the playoffs here on Style Esports.
Oh yeah, it's Friday, it's the playoffs. We've got another great matchup coming. We've got Milio hitting the ban table, which, we've been told to look out for from the DreadKnight squad here. Apparently, we do have Phantom, their team captain, going deathless a couple times on this champion. And I'm hoping for a great match tonight.
I'm hoping for a great match. I hope these teams are too. It sounds like, they are feeling the pressure of Friday. I'm seeing in the chat here between these two squads. One is saying they just did a 14-hour shift. Another one said they were just in a car accident yesterday. I mean, I hope that these games are anything but those two things. I want to see some quality League of Legends on the Rift tonight. And for neither of these teams will it be the end of their playoff road here in the Void. So excited to see what they're cooking up here on the Rift here in game number one.
Yeah, I think about 10 years ago, I remember watching a 76-minute LCS game. Hopefully, we're not in for a 14-hour
Yeah.
match tonight, but, we're going to have to see what the teams cook up.
Yeah, no, I think a 14-hour league game would be a little bit crazy. They try to gatekeep the end there. But we could talk about these starting rosters just a little bit. I can start with the SAIT Trojans. This is actually a university squad, or I guess, school squad here as well, which is the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Their Trojans League of Legends squad here coming in with the Void. Top laner is AJ. Believe I should double check this before I say it all right now, but I'm pretty sure the top laner is AJ here. My time is now their jungler, Accent in the mid lane, Pepper ADC, and Grafuko, the support for this team.
Yeah, and on the other side, the DreadKnights, we got Mistake in the top lane, Fable in the jungle, Mithrandir mid, bam on ADC, and Drop Dead Phantom, of course, the aforementioned player, finishing it up in support.
And I wonder if it is just Phantom, because he is the drop dead support for if that's what he's going by. That's what I think. So I think his original name was Phantom 8-bit. So drop the 8-bit
Whoa.
and now as the drop dead DreadKnights support, just says I'm gonna put that in the name as well. But I think you run out of characters, or at least getting close to it here.
Yeah, even with the new limits, maybe getting a little bit lengthy there, but repping the squad, love to see it. We got some nice first picks coming on in. Sejuani, a champion that I don't actually see a ton of prio on in a while, since last time that came around in competitive all that much, but always fun champion, always good value, good utility. Zach, one of my personal favorites, and Lulu taking out an early enchanter here in the bot lane.
What I really like seeing here already is the Zach Lulu combination, because both of these champions do have great team fighting prowess. I think there's lots of ways you can actually adapt your draft, but even from these first couple of picks, it's feeling very standard front to back. Isaiah Rakan being the response, I think, is also really wise when you think about it. What is a strong bot lane duo that can absorb some pressure? And having that ultimate available there for Isaiah just to throw herself up in the air and be able to avoid any kind of crowd control can be really powerful. And Rakan's new auto attacks are actually considered melee, I believe, as well. So coupling that with Sejuani already is going to help stack some of those passive stacks with the Winter's Bite.
Yeah, and Sejuani and Zaya are particularly two champions that I think should be pretty effective at dealing with the Zac. Got interrupt options in both sides. I was gonna say looking forward to having some manner of a hyper carry coming out for
Yeah.
the DreadKnights with the Lulu Zac pickups. Sivir, I think, fits the bill decently well. I think maybe more recently champions like Jinx have been a little bit more flavor, but certainly it might be something that the player is just a bit more comfortable with.
And sometimes that is what it comes down to. We haven't kind of talked about the elo of some of these players. A lot of them are sitting somewhere between, looks like silver 3 and diamond 3, right? So there's a pretty big spread of elos here. And yeah, their gold 180C Bam is someone that I think has been marked as a really strong player. Potato, sounds like you had a little bit of info about this potential player and what their style is when it comes to these kind of team fights for this DreadKnight squad.
Yeah, I was told that they were a quote pop-off talent. Apparently willing to, hold it down the ball lane 1v2 if needed, carry later on if needed as well. And it sounds like, at least based off the notes we were given, that the DreadKnights are just, a good group of buds. Apparently meeting with really good success in the regular season, only dropping one match due to some last-minute substitutions they had to do the very last match of the regular season. So coming into this playoffs strong, several of their players actually being fairly new or role swapping as well, but seeming like it's all working out pretty well for them.
And sometimes that's really what you want to see with a squad like this is, yeah, I mean, not dropping mini games. I mean, neither of these teams were seeded coming in first. Actually, Drop Dead DreadKnights were seeded fourth. And then SAT Trojans right behind them at fifth. So both of these teams are, at least, in seeding wise, designed to be pretty close when it comes to overall skill level here. And we'll see as we're into the second half of picks now, where they want to focus and round out these compositions. And a really big scaling champion here in the mid lane for Mithrandir, looking like they will be going towards this Aurelian Soul for them here in this game number one.
Yeah, scaling actually seeming to be the name of the game for the DreadKnights, just kind of across the board, right? You got the Enchanter to buff up your ADC, you got a hyperscaling ADC and mid laner, you got the tank honing it up and the top laner, the jungle. So really just the squad that, if it ends up going late, not going to be fussed whatsoever.
No, I mean, definitely won't be too fussed. And I mean, I do want to call out a little bit of a couple of weeks ago, we actually saw Mithrandir in Clash recently, had a couple of pretty great performances on this Aurelian Soul. Not one of their most played champions in solo queue by any means. However, does seem to find success when it does matter in coordinated 5v5 team play. So excited to see what they can do. Matching scaling with the Azir makes a lot of sense. Expecting to see a top laner coming in. Ooh, the coveted Skarter Potato. I'm thinking that's going to be top with Sejuani Jungle. That's a very strong 2 champion frontline here for the SAT Trojans.
Yeah, last time I said I'd be very amused if we got the mid-lane Skarter, and that was what we saw. I'm gonna put my bets on today. That's not where this Skarter is going. I'm gonna place my bets on top lane this time. We have seen some top lane Sejuani, so I guess it is technically a top jungle flex. Roles for the DreadKnights seeming like mortified unless we get a surprise jungle Darius or something. Most likely gonna be everyone in their more standard positions.
Yeah, and the mistake has shown Darius proficiency is their third most played champion here. So definitely something that shows some comfort. And I think that's a great way to go. Having some individual lane prowess as well, I think Darius is really known for. And as I see these 10 champions locked in the Rift Potato, where are you kind of leaning some of your focus as we think about what's going to be the impact that you want to see in this game number one?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like on the side of the Trojans, a lot of it is going to come down to these two main carries, Azai and Azir, seeing whether they are going to perform against the DreadKnights. On the other side, on the DreadKnights, of course, you have your two scaling carries, but you also have Darius into a bunch of melee and Sivir into a bunch of melee and short range as well, which is, something that this champion can sometimes struggle with a little bit. So I think we've got champions on the DreadKnights that are pretty well set up for success here.
I would agree. And I think there is a lot of that kind of self-peel for both sides as well when I see things like the Emperor's Divide or the Feather. You got Zaya's ult?
Featherstorm?
Featherstorm. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like that. I was like, Feather something. There you go.
Yeah.
Both of these abilities are very critical when it comes to self-peeling. And I see, the other end as well. You have a Willing Soul who can fly away from any kind of ganks. You have a spell shield on Sivir. I mean, you pop that ultimate yourself. And like, I do think there's a lot of mobility and opportunities to disengage fights that might not look good. And I kind of hope we see a little bit of that maneuvering around some of these key objectives this game, because I think execution is a really big part, especially with these compositions, when you see really who is going to be the damage dealer. For the Trojans, definitely Azir and Zaya. And meanwhile, for the DreadKnights today, for this game one at least, it's going to be Sivir, Sol, and Darius, right? So very clear who your targets are for both squads, and they have to be able to outperform when it comes to these critical moments if they're going to try to secure an advantage for their side.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking like, pretty traditional, like front to back team comps for both of these squads here. Pretty similar in the tools that they have. Both have, the ability to get some engage going. They have the ability for some self-protection. They have big scaling carries on both sides. So thematically, maybe not super different styles of play. So just going to have to come down to how the players will end up performing.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, Yeah, some giga scaling. I always like seeing a champion like Aurelion Sol that we'll have to keep an eye out on when they're getting those Skies Descend ultimates based on stacking up that ability power and making an even bigger execute range as the game goes on. And also Darius, I mean, this is another champion that can be pretty flashy in playmaking. If you start getting a couple good apprehends and throw it on that noxious guillotine, you can really take out one of these squishier members pretty quickly here. So, I mean, we see these 10 champions. This is, the group 5 here, or tier 5 of the Style Esports Season 18 playoffs. But it's the first round. And so hopefully low stress for both of these teams. Yes, it is playoffs. But I mean, DreadKnights, you said it, Potato, only dropping one game in the regular season. They want to try to keep it that way, I think.
Yeah, they do, and I'm excited to see whether they will keep that win streak alive and going. Even the singular game with the roster substitutions in, we can discount that a little, but this time they've got the full roster. I think they got something to prove.
They absolutely do. But you have something to prove with your channel points here too. If you are a fan of either of these two squads, Drop Dead DreadKnights on the red side or SAIT Trojans on the blue, get those channel points in right now as we're going to take a short break. And when we're back from this short break, we'll be hitting the rift for game number 1 of the evening between the SAIT Trojans and DDG DreadKnights here on Style Esports. We'll see you back here in just a moment.
All right, welcome back to the Rift. We're here with another round of playoffs here. We got the DreadKnights facing off against the Trojans. Already pretty standard 5 points coming out here early in this game. Looks like no invade shenanigans is going to be part of their level 1 plans.
Well, I do like these junglers both going mid. I mean, I think typically you see mid laners going mid, and I think this is just showing a pretty high level of understanding that both teams are happy to say, all right, we're going to put our jungler there. And I mean, even take a look at where top laners are and mid laners holding that space, yes, it is a 5 point, but it's a pretty, yeah, pretty high level of understanding 5 point, I think, as well here. We'll see where these junglers want to path early on. I'd like
Yep.
to see action toward getting this Darius ahead early, actually.
All right, now we got some action from AJ tossing out some boulders, 2 for 2, smacking people with those big rocks. We did get Darius there, mistake in the top lane with his reset, but Mithrandir are maybe going to start the lane a little bit lower on HP. And this Comet Skarner build, honestly, I think can really be obnoxious for any melee champions to face into. You got infinite shielding coming in from Full Moon Winter. You got very reliable poke with your Q and W, that perma slow, and the W. I want to say almost undodgeable. That thing's range is kind of disgusting.
Oh, on the boulder toss.
Oh, on
Oh, oh, oh,
the
oh,
shield earthquake.
oh, yes, yeah. If you're
Yeah,
close enough, like, I mean, yeah, it's pretty guaranteed damage and shielding. Like, yeah, it's a pretty spicy combo.
Yeah, also worth noting here, Fable starting with the Raptors here early on, which was warded out, so will be spotted for this first clear as we will have to take a brief moment. Mithrandir here with a quick DC. And we were told from the history of this team, this was something that happened every once in a while. We sometimes had players unable to play due to internet issues, but looks like hopefully it will be something that is relatively short.
Well, it sounds like both mid laners might have crashed, actually. I don't know what's going on with these Riot servers now, but uh,
I
yeah, I
think the
mean, level one, game one, we're already getting a crash here.
Yeah, we got the Korea DDoSers making their way over to NA, apparently. They said T1, not a big enough target. We gotta take down Style Esports next.
Yeah, that's the biggest target. You can let Drop Dead continue their prowess here from their regular season. Looks like, yeah, a lot of ours starting to come into the chat, so I expect to see us back on the Rift in just a moment. But nothing level one so far. I mean, you talked about this early pathing from Zach. Both junglers look like they will be meeting bot side at similar times. Unless Zach wants to do something spicy onto Skarner. But I mean, you just called out all the strength for AJ Skarner here in the top lane. It can be a little bit hard to punish, and it doesn't look like Mistake is trying to force the issue, at least. Going a teleport for themselves will limit a little bit of that prowess that they have.
Yeah, that is interesting because I feel like whenever I see a Darius come out through it, it's almost always with Ghost and with Conqueror. So this Grasp teleport build, seeming like something that's a little less geared towards selfish play, possibly. We'll see what kind of value they can get towards the teleport, but maybe trying to play like a bit more frontline disruption or something like that rather than just a full-on carry role.
Yeah, definitely could play a little bit more hybrid in that sense as well. We had a brief stutter there, but we should be back to live. You still about 225 or so, Potato?
Yep, should
All
be
right.
still synced.
And so should our viewers here as well. So hopefully we all got unpaused around the same timing there.
Yep, now we got level 2s coming in for the bot lane. Zyrocon here, getting some early push. Not surprised, Sivir, I think, usually needing some time before a famous wave clear of this champion comes into play. Usually Noon Quiver, going to be a really good breakpoint for that one.
Really is. And Mistake does get a little bit of push here in the top lane and is sitting on a CS lead. So AJ with a very strong champion, but not with a very strong individual early game. However, still lots of time to bring that back to parity. Level sixes, I think, are really the timer for both of these teams. I called out a couple of those key ones as we were waiting there, the Feather Storm and the Emperor's Divide for the Zaya and Azir, respectfully, here on this blue side of SAIT Trojans. However, there are definitely other key ultimates here that, that Glacial Prison can really be impactful in these fights. And I want to see how they can start coupling together some of these ultimates as level sixes will be coming in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I think these team fighting ultimates certainly very potent from both sides. I've got a lot of key abilities to watch out for. I think another thing that my eyes are drawn to here is this mid lane. The Azir choosing to go grasp, although hold that thought briefly as Drop Dead Phantom gets absolutely flashed on and eviscerated. First blood being picked
Oh,
up by My Time Is Now, but another tower dive coming in from mistake, actually giving driven straight on and taking 2 tower shots, very nearly going down, but just barely managing to hang on.
that's suppress. If you go on the wrong side of a Skarner, it throws you into tower with aggro there. I mean, so hard with that continued bleed that Darius provides. Like, you can't get close to the tower because if you're pulled under, really hard to do anything about it. But Mistake just happy to keep farming up and maintain the dominance topside early on.
Yeah, seems like not going to be too fussed about that one. AJ rapidly running out of mana. I do expect a tier pickup at some time fairly soon. But yeah, this Skarner, I think that ability, something that can take a little while to get used to if you're playing against it. I remember the first time I got ganked by this champion, I thought the suppression was on his ulti, and I was like, wait a second, why can't I move? And maybe mistaken taken slightly off guard there as well.
Yeah, but the movement, speaking of that, early on has been more focused on bot lane more than, the suppression that Skarner is able to provide pre-level 6. I do want to call out that it was a great pick on a Drop Dead Phantom, and at the same time, Phantom actually did not use either summon or spell. So we'll still have both of those available for potential Dragon Angle as well. And the fact that My Time Is Now has taken a reset and Fable has not, does mean that this little bit of a parity in the reset department there. 6-minute grub timer means there's nothing too much for Zach to do except for gank this top lane.
Yeah, try and find their way onto AJ, who does seem to be able to taxi himself straight into tower once again, but Darius is stacked up. The bleed is fully going. That's a lot of damage coming out onto this Scorpion, but we'll need the finish there. Not quite findy it, not quite level 6. If that guillotine was up, that would have been one Scorpion sent straight back to the base.
Yeah, but is just gonna ward up and try to play a little bit safer now under tower. But the guillotine is now available, and AJ needs this wave for level 6 themselves. There was that dragon slain on the bot side, so some information given over to this drop dead squad on where the jungler is. However, just now are we seeing the grub spawn, and Zach might need to try to take that just to even out that neutral objective department. But a ping from the blue side actually going on there, and because of that great ward from the Scorpion, AJ has full information on where this blob man is. Zach is not safe here and will still decide to start up these grubs, but might be a 2v2 after AJ gets the clear in top lane.
Yeah, it does have the advantage of top lane prowl here. On the trade on that bot lane play, only able to take away the Gromp and get that top gank off in response. Does look like AJ going to just take the base here, so Grubs might end up going uncontested. I was going to say, I really like the timing from My Time Is Now. Finding that bot gank and then knowing the enemy reset timer immediately, taking the opportunity to take the dragon, didn't get traded against too hard. I think there was a window for them to go and look for a Grub contest, but
Yeah.
is gonna have all 3 traded away now.
But My Time Is Now has decided that that was not the time to contest the grubs, and I think it's fine just to take a second sequence and really play for a level 6 timer as soon as possible. Fable getting that extra experience, though, could be a little dangerous because you actually get level 6, I believe, at least a camp earlier from some of that neutral objective XP. But, like, we're still looking at Fable. He hasn't reset yet, Potato.
Yeah, the Zac sustaining something that can really keep you healthy for what feels like forever. And
Yeah,
I guess if
yeah.
there's not too much skirmishing going on, maybe gonna be fine. But yeah, it does have a lot of gold banked up now, almost 2K. So hopefully gonna be seeing that coming through. Maybe after the next full clear.
Yeah, but even like with the kind of buy that My Time Is Now has on Sejuani, like that's what Fable could have right now. And the advantage of those items is you get your abilities up faster and you do burn damage to the camps. Like, yeah, it's only 15 magic damage per second, but that does speed up your clear by seconds. And when you're a champion like Zach that relies on health to do damage, having a buy, even for CDR boots and something like a Bombies, is incredibly valuable. So you're actually almost shooting yourself in the foot by not taking it back just because it makes your sequence really slow on a second timer.
Yeah, and it looks like Sejuani sequencing pretty well here, keeping up very well in the CS,
AJ.
despite having that time to buy. AJ getting a little bit knocked on down. It is fully stacked.
Oh,
Flash out on
wait a
both
minute.
sides, but there is the suppress right as Darius is in the middle of the air. The Noxia Guillotine perfectly interrupted the last rock. Unfortunately, not finding their way, but the Glacial Prison does find their way down, and Phantom drops dead for the second time.
AJ almost outplayed that and turned the 1v1 using that shield and playing on the edge. Mistake is still staying here, but doesn't want to make one. See if this wave will get under tower now with the level ups. I don't think there's going to be a dive angle. And just going to use that nullifying orb to absorb a little bit of that magic damage. And now Mistake going to look for some honey fruit to try to stay in lane in the top side.
Yeah, that top lane 1v1 was real spicy there. I actually didn't know that was how the ultimate interaction worked either. I thought that Darius would get the ulti refund upon the interruption, like sometimes you'll see off Garen ulti off stopwatch, for example, but no, just completely consumed the cooldown. Now looking for a round 2. There comes out the shield from AJ. There's the suppress, slammed into the wall, tossed into the boulder.
No!
Can he turn it around? No, he cannot. The Scorpion picks up the first kill in the top lane.
You play too close to the edge and you will get stung. This Scorpion is back. That suppression into the wall does additional damage. So that's something that's really crucial about the Scorpion's kit is you haven't seen that used too much, but if you collide into a wall, 210 physical damage, Potato. Just from colliding with a wall, not to mention a 1.5 stun. It is so impactful if you can direct and steer that boat right into a wall there. And that was the difference maker in that 1v1 top lane.
Yeah, fairly brutal, and the percent max HP damage coming out from the Q is no joke either. Now we have AJ rotating to the mid lane, already setting up for the second dragon contest. Look at the absolute sea of blue around the bottom side jungle there.
Oh my gosh, so much information. Even more wars than you need. There is not a single entrance that will not be spotted out by the blue squad here. A great objective setup from SAIT here in the bot side on this dragon to secure the mountain. Even with information, I mean, you could try to contest if you're this drop dead squad, but I don't think it's going to be good for the DreadKnights to take a fight now. And with this second grub spawning, I wouldn't be surprised to see 6 grubs for 2 dragons. That's the most common trade you're seeing now. However, with these numbers, you could move up, but just no vision in your top side. Accent might want to try to find someone.
Yeah, the pull misses, as does the ASO ulti. This is Azir, one slippery champion. AJ now walking out over the area. It is going to be a potential 4v3 here. Time is now charging off forward. Here comes the Rakan ulti. Mistake is going to get chain CC'd up to high oblivion. That's going to be about 5 abilities in a row. No opportunity to move whatsoever. But 5 grubs already picked up, and now Fable is going to start running for their lives. The 6th one going to be secured by the Trojans.
Yeah, 5 grubs is the same as 4 on the current patch, so you still will get that 1 Void Might spawning, but denying the double spawn, I think, is very high value. And even getting that extra little bit of a kill onto the Mistake went from someone that was feeling like they were dominating lane to now slipping a little bit behind with these 2 deaths very recently here in the top lane.
Yeah, and this Mountain Drake that was picked up on the bot side too, I think it'll provide very high value, even as just a single Drake here, as you have a very durable top side here, and even a tankier Azir build, and probably Rakan, which is going to be going for some resistances as well. So going to make it significantly harder for the members of the DreadKnights to chew through.
Someone I want to talk about that we haven't been mentioning too much, Potato, is Bam on the Sivir. This was a pick that was locked in R3 and was picked with the Lulu as that enchanter choice. We talked about wanting to see a hyper carry, and Bam definitely feels like someone that's happy to play for late game. They're doing just fine with a Cole start and is farming on parity nearly with Pepper. But where are you going to start making a difference here? Because it definitely doesn't feel like Fable has done very much, if at all, to try to get this bot lane ahead. And they're just bouncing waves back and forth. And I am curious to see when you are naming, and this is something that Phantom had said, that Bam is the carry that you want on your team, why we're not seeing nearly as much focus or even our own focus on this bot lane side for DreadKnights.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like from a certain perspective, it's a little bit difficult to get the bot ganks going on to the Trojans. It would probably be a multi-step process. You know, maybe step one, blow your OTs or the flashers or something like that. Kind of try and revisit at some point because silver lanes, I do feel like a lot of times do end up just be handshake wave clear a lot of the times. And you know, silver one of those champions that are also just happy to go ahead and grab, you know, 200-300 CS and then try and contribute to some later game team fights. But yeah, would like to see a little bit more presence down here.
But I honestly do feel like, Potato, this game is more disciplined than most games I see in Masters, even in 5v5s, right? Like, I don't think I've played a game when I was playing competitively with my last team that was 0 to 4 at 14 minutes, right? Like, both of these teams do feel content to farm and scale. And I think when you pick a Sivir Soul, you are kind of agreeing to that and you're okay with it, right? Like, there's no reason to panic. Like you said, Sivir can farm 300 farm and then show up to a fight and influence it. And same with Aurelion Soul. I mean, that last ultimate that they threw down was kind of peanuts compared to, as the Stardust grows, how that's going to continue to add range and damage to that ability. So, yeah, the scaling does seem to just be matched side by side. But as we talk about scaling, one of the things you have to keep your eyes on are these dragons, because that's really going to give your team that permanent buff for the rest of the game. They can make or break it. But Fable might try to break the game open right now.
Yeah, Fable looking for the Smite steal off by just 120 HP and now going to find himself in the middle of 4. Does have Flash available to get over the wall, but the CC chain is so powerful. Does end up getting on over though, and now AJ looking for a suppress over that pit. Not quite going to find it. Those stingers just an inch or so short.
And it looks like the Herald was picked up by Skarner as well in the top lane. Gratefully, Fable was able to escape with their life. And bam, started to dish out the damage. Feels like onto Pepper just a little bit, peppering in a little bit of those boomerangs there to start trading some of that health back in the bot lane.
Yeah, got some fancy footwork there, dodging in on the feather pole, hitting in both sides of the boomerang. Those are the kinds of small things that you want to see. And hopefully as the game goes on, we're going to see a bit more of those mechanics. Do have a brief 1v2 laning period here as the third dragon spawn is going to be coming up. It's a Hextech, so we know both champions are going to really want that one. We do have the bot lane of the Trojans really low here, so they might need to end up taking a late reset here. It's only 20 seconds until the dragon respawns. If the DreadKnights are able to take advantage of this one, as Oxen might be going down, there's the flash blown. Aso ulti traded in response. Mithrandir will have the TP to join back in on the fight. Probably will take that reset, get the item buy, and mosey on over.
A surprising escape there from Axen. Not quite enough crowd control from this red side of DreadKnights to actually keep Axen 100 to 0. You named that Mithrandir also committed the ultimate. Fable didn't have their own available yet, but that would have been the crowd control needed. But now with that reset timer from this Azir, they want to try to start up this dragon, but they've lost the ultimate already.
Yeah, and they want to find the Lulu once again, and that's an early fall down, but here we go. Fable is in the mix, but look at Oxen with the huge shuffle there onto the side. It's going to be immediately 3 members of the DreadKnights falling right away. The Zac is going to get blocked, but no hope of survival, and even AJ's got the suppress going on. This is going to be a clean ace, a triple kill for Oxen. What immaculate team fighting coming out from the Trojans.
5 for 0 at 16 minutes, Potato. This game has just blown open. 3 members took their first death of the game there in that dragon fight. But now, 3 dragons, you are on a timer if you are the DreadKnights, because in 5 minutes time, the soul will be spawning. And if you give that one over to the Trojans, SAIT is going to start running away with this game.
Yeah, the Hextech Soul is an absolute brutal one to try and have to fight against. And we've seen in these team fights, it has been the Trojans repeatedly finding these good picks. A beautiful flank by Azir. I didn't even see where he flew in from, but just absolute devastation raining onto the enemy side. I thought that, you know, maybe the DreadKnights would have had a window there getting the bot lane low, but looks like they were able to get back in time thanks to these Hex Gates, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and we're not quite at the point where this devastation rain and we're seeing, you know, their future dripping down the drain. But Drop Dead will have to start finding some openings here because the timer is ticking. The time for Sejuani is now. That my time is now. If you are a SAIT supporter, you're very happy with this current game state. And I want to see where these 2 item points start to come in. And if it's a before the dragon, I think you can try to take a fight, because I don't think Drop Dead did anything super incorrectly there because they forced Axon on a reset. They were able to be the first ones into the pit, but just not enough damage yet on these carries to really make a difference.
Yeah, the positioning just so much better from the Trojans, and also the gold onto the right members. 4 kills on this Azir, 3 onto the Zaya. The good news, if you are the DreadKnights, is that Sivir actually almost equivalent in gold, just about 200 gold behind, despite being 3
Yeah.
kills down. A lot of that is thanks to the tower plating and the first tower that they were able to pick up. So a bit of hope here, working their way towards the quick blades. Sivir can still end up being a very potent threat.
Meanwhile, the most potent threat right now is this Azir that we're seeing getting jumped on right now by the mistake in the top side.
Yeah, and absolutely blowing this Darius to shreds, as now it's going to be Fable rooted up, trying to run away, burning the Lulu ultimate as well. These engages just not quite finding their mark.
Pulling flashes, but not too much else. It's still a minute till the Baron, and Dragon is not close. So just seem to be skirmishing for the sake of skirmishing here. But hopefully if they're able to pick up some kills. The mistake now back onto Axon in the top lane.
Yeah, finding the pull, but there's the Sejuani. The cavalry arrives, but wait a second, that's a big heal
The burn.
and a big ulti from Mistake. One more tick, there's the shutdown. That's going to be 800 gold going on to the top laner. We were talking about their mistakes earlier. This could be their path back into the game.
That was not at all a mistake, Potato. 800 gold, like you're saying, to be downright Darius. The bleed was enough. Downright Darius for Drop Dead DreadKnights. Say that 3 times fast. Because this top laner is the player that you need to keep your eyes on. Single-handedly a 1,000 gold lead over top of this Skarner. That is the same advantage that you're seeing in the mid lane, an advantage of SAIT. The rest of the lanes are pretty much at parity here. So it's really going to be a matter of the mistake versus Axon. And as we just saw these two players squaring off in the top lane, Darius got the better even in the 2v1.
Yeah, and I was gonna say the solo lane matchups were looking slightly painful there for the DreadKnights, as Axon was absolutely shoving soldiers into the face of Mistake over and over, poking him low under a tower, but it looks like it just takes one good all-in to turn the tides on that one, and Mistake found his window.
They absolutely did. And with 20 minutes on the clock, that means that the Baron has spawned. You're seeing how Axon is starting to move some of this vision and attention toward that purple worm in the top side. But what you can't forget about is that timer in your top left-hand side of your screen. It's a minute, 15 seconds until the soul for the SAIT Trojans. If they are able to secure this, that is a permanent Hex Tech soul for this squad. That could be absolutely game-ending if you think about the power of that soul. We'll see if ultimates are going to all be available. It looks like they will be. Flash is up for everybody but the mistake, and my time is now. So this is going to be a very explosive team fight, but not 2 items yet for Mithrandir. 800 gold on this reset might give them that little bit of jump that they need. This is going to be a close team fight, Potato.
Yeah, it's going to be a very crucial one. And the problem that they're facing, dropping 3 Drakes this early on in the game, is that you are deprived for time, which is one of their greatest allies. You want time for your carries to scale, but you are not given that luxury. Oxen here going to push out the top lane, does have TP available. We do have early positioning on Dragon this time from the DreadKnights. They're clearing out the vision. They're trying to set up for a successful fight.
They are here, and 4 members down here already. As you mentioned, is only the teleport. Mid lane priority needs to be the setup ahead of time here. Grafuko already reset with more wards and inventory and some great vision control. They're going to try to get a pick right now. They might have got Sejuani.
Yeah, they're going to try to find the pick here. TP is available. This is Sejuani burns the flash, and it looks like they are straight on running away. This is a big pickup. They will look to trade for some towers here on the side lanes. Oxen pushing pretty relentless here, but this is going to buy a much-needed 5-minute break for the DreadKnights. Bam! Looking to get engaged on some nice footwork. Barely dodges out of that Rakan knockup.
Big Bam in the mid lane. I mean, I thought that was a fight that Sejuani might have even escaped from, if we're being honest. But you saw Fable commit not only the flash and the let's bounce there, but you also saw things like the polymorph going through the Noxious Guillotine. Axon does have that free time alone in the top lane, so that's actually 700 individual gold going into their pockets. Now exploding the mid lane gold difference to 1,700 between these two players. Mithrandir seems to still be on the back foot. Stopping the reset, though, and has ult available, but going too far would be devastating. I mean, they got the pick onto the right target. They committed and got the dragon. Like you said, Potato, the biggest thing they got off of that was time.
Yeah, this is Zier, though, also scaling up pretty disgustingly here, finishing
Yeah.
out 2 full items, backing the 2,700 gold. These top, or these inner towers giving so much gold across, and he picked up 2 towers on that push. Certainly a very valuable trade for the opponent's first dragon.
I would sure say so. I mean, that's the player you need to be really prioritizing for gold. And because they lost that one member, they knew that they couldn't contest the dragon, right? That when that's your jungler and my time is low, my time is now is dead. They know that they can't take the fight. And so it's great to see that cross map come through as well. This team is showing mastery and understanding cross map trades when they can't fight the objective. And because Axon was able to actually get the priority there, continued that into a successful play. Axon now the one in trouble.
Yep, going to use the Emperor's Divide to keep themselves safe. Mistake seeming to find themselves pretty comfortable here in the side lane, as both sides contesting some Baron vision. And I do want to give props also over to the DreadKnights. Seems like their vision game has been pretty strong. I mean, earlier, before the clear came on through, they had that top quadrant all lit up. And now Oxen trading back a little bit more onto Mistake. Gets pulled though. Ooh, one auto going onto the minion there could have been a bit more dangerous should that have
I
been
thought
working.
Axon was going to look for the shuffle into tower, but then I realized they actually don't have it, meaning they are so vulnerable here. Mistake knows that and is playing on the edge, and they're also starting up this Baron 4v4.
Yeah, and here comes the Zac Engage, finding 2 members and a big ulti with the ASO bomb on top. Mithrandir brains down the comet from the heavens. Time is going to fall as well. This could be a Baron opening and a big turning point for the game. Down 2,000 gold, they find the fight on the top lane, taking down 2 crucial members. And this Baron, with their champions, could be absolutely astronomical. AJ coming on through auction, close on behind. Fable gets stunned up, and this Azir is free hitting the suppress from the Scorpion.
So scary.
Fable looking for another jump in, is going to try and escape for their life. Instead, bam, falls now. And here comes Xayah, polymorph just for a moment, but the wall slam is good, and the dragon falls. Phantom now caught in a 1v3, no hope of survival. What started as a 2-4-0 is going to get turned around 4-0, and it looks like now the Trojans might be the one looking for the Baron.
That went back and forth, and the way they were able to teleport up there was just because they killed the Mistake. Darius did fall because AJ and Axon overloaded on the bot side and then double teleported up after reset. That kind of angle is crucial, and it had to be communicated that the teleports were there. Now Fable wanted to try to contest, but no contest is possible. It is going to be Xayah picking up this Baron for this SAIT Trojan squad. And after a fight, as you said, Potato, that looks so good for Drop Dead DreadKnights, they are now back at a point where it feels like they're on the back foot.
Yeah, the solo laners coming in huge for the Trojans, and I think the crucial thing was so many resources expended there for the Sejuani.
Yeah.
The Zac ult was used, the ASO ult was used. A lot of health was lost in the process too, so when this Azir, this fearsome menace comes TPing in, when the Skarner comes around with his barrels of CC, the rest of the fight was much more difficult, one would say.
And we're going to be getting another fight in just about a minute here, Potato. I'm looking at flash timers. Bam and Mithrandir both have theirs available, as does the Mistake. Meanwhile, only Axon and AJ, the ones with flash available for this next fight. It is going to come down to the solo laners once again for SAIT Trojans at this next option. Big piece here is that Sejuani cannot get caught before the objective spawns, and you need to look for these key targets.
Yeah, gonna force down 1 tower early on here. An objective bounty claimed. The goal difference steadily growing over time to a 5k deficit. And now 20 seconds to the dragon spawn. Flash is available for Oxen, not for Pepper though. So we'll see how these carries will be able to keep themselves alive in this upcoming conflict.
DreadKnights top laner, the Mistake, happy to continue the pressure top side, but AJ does seem fine to match it for SAIT.
Yeah, this Scorpion, very durable, although Mistake getting advantage in these long trades, popping the flash, but ends up getting suppressed. Trading ultimates here are both top laners. The bleed goes on down, 600 shut down the Mistake, but will die to the minions in trade as well. So it's going to be just a proper 44 here in the bot lane, 40 seconds, so no chance of either top laner joining in the engagement. Both sides making their way to the bot lane. ASO ulti and Sivir ulti were used there. I think there might have been some manner of skirmish. Maybe we missed slightly. But look at this Azir damage. It's absolutely disgusting. Bam, immediately taken down to have HP. Looks like they might even look for some manner of dive against this tower. Fable finds some space on the side. And now the DreadKnights turn to Dragon.
It's already 10,000 health here. The teleport from the mistake is able to join on spawn. Meanwhile, AJ has to walk their Scorpion feet in. If Bam can just stay here and do damage, they could look for a flip, but you really want the mistake there. Less than 3 seconds now until they are on the map, and teleport's going to come in nearly immediately. That's the fight they're going to look for. Here it is now.
Yeah, ISO continuing to push mid lane once again, so we might just see the DreadKnights backing off, choosing to trade for another inner. Pull misses onto Graphico, who's able to slip out of there. So second Dragon traded for another inner as Oxen continues to power up. Level 16 now on this Azir, 13,000 gold, running away from the mistake. Fable on the sides. Will we see some manner of engage? Probably not. Mistake running for their lives now. ASO buying time with that wave clear.
And Baron just expired as well, Potato, so this is a crucial timer. Because they got the second dragon, Drop Dead DreadKnights seems to continue to hold on. 3 items about to come through for this ADC as well. 3 items already completed for the mistake and Darius. And DreadKnight seems to be at a point where they're stabilizing here, but every dragon could be their last if it goes over to SAIT.
Yeah, and I'm kind of enjoying the macro here too that the Trojans are pulling out. They secure that early soul point. They know that the enemy is under pressure, and they have twice now traded that dragon from mount pressure as now Mistake going to get taken down by the solo laners of the enemy.
These are those carries. Like,
oh yeah,
they're everywhere. And like you said, Axen with the macro.
Although
like,
Mithrandir
wanting to do something here, but yeah, Axen took the top lane solo, took the mid lane solo. Like, it does feel like the difference here in the map pressure and in the advantage is simply Axen.
Yeah, I mean, you do lose these 2 dragons, right? But it's dragons 1 and 2 for the enemy team. You're not under that much pressure at that point, and you are trading that for map control. I mean, just look at where the champions are positioned on the map now. DreadKnights, they're at such a deficit in their ability to maneuver and their ability to gain control, and they have to consistently fight for control of their own jungle. At any one of these points, we might see a Sejuani ult flying out from somewhere. We might see a Rakan flash engage coming out, and one of these carries gets caught, and it's going to be more towers falling down.
And I do feel like these 2 teams seem very evenly matched, at least in this game number 1, Potato. Both teams, I think, have their individual strengths. Both of them have some apparent weaknesses as well. AJ, speaking of, is getting caught out a little bit in the mid lane.
Yeah, Zir teleporting behind, though, so the Scorpion does go on down, looking for the second kill.
Look at Axen. Look at Axen.
For a good one, but Axen there on the side. The shuffle hits nobody, and now Pepper in a duel with the mistake. First forced to burn the flash, but the giant feather pull is going to be for the Noxian Guillotine not being able to connect, and now Phantom potentially under pressure from the rest of the squad, cutting this mid wave to prevent some kind of push from coming on through. Ultimately, a pretty even trade, but what looked like a really scary TP, fortunately for the DreadKnights, did not end up paying off all that much.
SAIT Trojans almost found the perfect flank with their mid laner Axen. I thought they might have found the angle needed to win the game right on the spot. But like you called out in that team fight, Potato, unfortunately, the Emperor's Divide was dividing the team, scored 3 points in the uprights for missing both sides of that fight. Bam barely did not fall, but it was 2 for 1.
Yeah, it was 2 for 1, and Pepper there with some really impressive movement, soloing the opponent top laner. What a amazing pullback there on the Xayah Feathers, just absolutely making sure that Darius was not going to get within range of her champion.
But now next Baron is on the map, and these critical item spikes are through for our carries. Take a look at Aurelion Soul and the Sivir. Meanwhile, Pepper very, very close to their 4th item, looking like a Guardian Angel, the next pickup. I mean, and Pepper is a player that has not fallen yet this game. The only one of these 10 members to yet see black and white in their game. What that means is this player is playing incredibly well around these key fights. And now with a Guardian Angel completed and having a Featherstorm available, has a couple of defensive options in their toolkit, especially because both summoner spells were expended in the last fight.
Yeah, these 2 items are huge. GA for the Xayah and Death Cap finished for the Azir. It's going to be a big uphill climb now for the DreadKnights to find another team fight victory. They do have control of the area for now. AJ looking for some damage onto this Asol, and looking like this Scorpion is burning the heck out of that dragon, as now we might have Gravuko getting caught just 1 auto away from death. Pops the lock hit, but it's not going to be enough to keep him alive, and now my time is now is the next one in danger, but Pepper, he's laying down those feathers as Mithrandir gets soloed. straight up by AJ in the top lane, and now Pepper dominating Phantom drops Bam, trying desperately to kite out of this situation. Is the damage from the Sivir enough? Flash in from Mistake to try and find him, but there comes the shuffle from the Oxen. He finds one, he finds two, and the Zac Blobs go down as well. That is another wipe as Trojans find the team fight win. AJ pummeling away at this tower just like he pummeled away at Mithrandir, and with 30 seconds left on the spawn timer, looks like it might be Trojans going for the end.
An incredible play from AJ in the bot side, and meanwhile the fight was close. Bam almost able to kite it out, but just not enough. Ultimately, the carry with the name ADC, that C is for carry, that P is for Pepper, and game one looks like it might be going over to SAIT Trojans.
Yeah, the two Nexus towers are going down, and the Nexus is shortly to follow. A pretty clean game from the Trojans coming out in this first matchup. Sure, there were times where the DreadKnight had chances, but it felt like they never really let go of control this whole time.
They really didn't. I mean, I thought that maybe Drop Dead DreadKnights were going to start finding a way back into that game after they started securing some dragons for themselves. But like you said, Potato, I think the critical part was that they never allowed DreadKnights to take control of the game from that. Yes, they might have given over a couple of those key objectives, but yeah, like you said, it was two dragons. It was nothing that you had to fight for, and it did feel like SAIT Trojans were really in the driver's seat here in game number one.
Yeah, and I think they just, each of the players really just having some great decision making, some great highlight moments. My time is now in there, but the early ganks on the Sejuani, finding some back-to-back picks onto the Lulu that allowed them to secure the bot advantage. Pepper pumping out damage kind of unbelievably hard on this
Yeah.
Xayah. Sure, they weren't the one getting some of the highlight kills like the Zero was securing, but in those fights, absolutely was dishing out the pain. Oxen, of course, with some of those big shuffles, and AJ in these team fights, not to be underestimated, soloing the opponent solo laners multiple times, and maybe it was kind of directly the cause for them winning the game there at the end, getting the enemy mid laner out of the fight, bringing that wave in for the end of the game there.
Yeah, the fact that AJ, like, I do want to hold on that for a moment because Skarner 1v1 to late game 3.5 item Aurelion Soul. Like, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that is slightly hard to imagine too. I mean, Asol Bird Flash there as well, and it has the
Yeah.
flyaway. Carter, not known for having particularly incredible mobility or catch-up potential. But I guess this person's play some NASCAR, playing some Forza 5 or something. Because yeah, he was driving people into walls left and right, and I guess just soloing everyone in front of him.
I mean, really was the difference maker there. This is a best of 3 in our upper bracket, and so still lots of League of Legends potentially to be played. I mean, I do feel like these two teams are evenly matched up when I saw it on paper, and I'm seeing them in game. So I'll be curious to see who might be that next standout performer here in game number 2. Take a quick break. We'll get set and settled. We'll be into the draft in just a moment. What? Okay, number one has concluded, and now we're into draft for the second match of the evening between DDDG DreadKnights, that is Drop Dead Gaming DreadKnights, and their opponents who just won game number one, SAIT Trojans.
Yeah, it looks like the ban's going to be exactly the same. Both teams also opting to stay on the same sides for this game too. So we'll have to see what kinds of adjustments might be coming out in the second match. Because so far the answer is a lot of nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be happy with that. The adaptation here seems to be at least banning away the Azir. So maybe saying we don't want to play against that. I mean, gotta give credit where credit is due. Axon seemed to be the dominating force for that side lane split push. And we saw it in game number one. We're seeing it again now in game number two. Will be a Sejuani first pick here for My Time Is Now. Their time is to play Sejuani, I think.
Yeah, apparently the board, I mean, being very effective, admittedly, in that first game, finding some really great engages, especially around the bot area of the map early on, that secured some nice advantages for their team. So seems like a comfort champion, very safe first pick. You know, not any super major counters. Trundle maybe was a historic one, but that's a champion that we haven't seen in the meta in a while. So not a bad pickup. And Poppy, okay, looks to be like a bit of an adjustment coming in already.
Already seen an adjustment. Honestly, where I've been liking Poppy recently, Potato, is support. Like, I think Poppy support is very, very strong. I think it can be held as a three-way flex. Most likely, you'll see it go in jungle, especially kind of as a response into the Sejuani. However, there are still lots of potential options where that pick can go.
Yeah, I do know you're a Poppy support enjoyer, but we'll see if Phantom is as much of an enjoyer of the role as the rest of the draft continues to round out. Maybe expecting an ADC pick here second to see what gets locked in.
Oh, the Rakan takeaway. Seeing if they will be able to deny the Zaya Rakan. Do you still go Zaya with a different support? I think you absolutely could.
Yeah, definitely possible. And, you know, maybe not even something that necessarily has to be kept together as a pairing. I do think this potentially shatters your dreams of a Poppy support. But I mean, I do like this pickup as well. Some great engage options, very slippery as well, so hard to catch. And looks like the Trojans do want to break away that Lovers duo, not going to give them the satisfaction of the combination.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. We saw how powerful just the Zaya was on their own and limiting the ability of it here. But the draft otherwise is actually the same first two picks for SAIT that they had in game number one with the Sejuani and now the Zaya. But I expect to see a support picked up here, but it got to be a different support. I think you could just play something like an Enchanter and you played Appeal because we were talking about even off stream here, how strong Pepper was on this pick. Meanwhile, they looks like they're actually going to be saving a support now for second half and deciding to pick up something that they were scared of getting banned away, specifically because DreadKnights banned it away in game number one. So they say we want to pick up this big Gragas boy now.
Yeah, certainly was Banaway previously, and another good flex champion. Very possible to go in multiple roles here. I mean, even Sejuani technically can be flexed a couple different ways. I've seen it top before. I've seen it support in rare occasions. And I think all manners of supports can be viable here. You can go for an Enchanter for the scaling. Melee support, something like a Leon or Nautilus, traditionally pretty strong into Rakan specifically. So all things that can be possible depending on whatever flavor they feel like picking up. Kaisa, Zaya, classic handshake from back in the day. I do always kind of favor the Zaya a little bit
Yeah.
in this matchup personally, just because you have the extra threat of the feathers always in lane. Kaisa, one of those really short range carries. But nowadays, with the AP poke build, you know, can play from 3 screens away as well. So we'll have to see which of those options Bam decides to go for.
And I do think BAM has an option here to go that AP build. As you know, granted, it doesn't shred through Sejuani very much, but there is a world where you can poke out Zaya. And you don't need to go in necessarily either, especially if you have the peel from Poppy Rakan. So maybe you go down kind of the poke road here. However, it does also feel like maybe BAM is saying, give me something that I'm comfortable on that I can carry with a little bit harder than the Sivir. And I think sometimes that can actually be a little bit scary if you are this ADC for DDG, because DreadKnights has to be very careful how they position around the Kaisa to enable Kaisa to succeed. And I don't think these pieces right now with the Poppy Rakan are necessarily enabling Kaisa as much as she might want.
Yeah, maybe it's Bam saying that. Maybe it's someone else. Because here we have a Twitch ban coming out in the 4-5. So maybe the Trojans know something that we aren't aware of. Is Kaisa potentially like a mid ADC flex? Or are they taking out some kind of Twitch jungle shenanigans? I was a little bit surprised by that one.
I'm a little bit surprised by it too. BAM's most played ADC is the Twitch, and they don't have a whole lot of Kai'Sa, at least in their top 10 picks. Only 3 games so far this season in Gold 1 on that choice, but does have a 5 KDA. So I do expect it to still be a Kai'Sa ADC here. Maybe this will confirm it. Maybe because they're holding it as a flex here for this last couple of picks. It is interesting to see, as you're saying, Potato. Maybe they know something that we don't, but I mean, going to be DreadKnights top laner here. We saw game 1 on the Darius. This time, mistake will be onto an Urgot, another strong laning prowess potential.
Yeah, as a champion that I haven't seen an amateur in a while. I know it's peaked up here and there just a little bit in competitive. I want to say something like Whipple's played a little bit in the top lane or something like that. There's a Nautilus answer into the Rakan, so one of those classic counters. And we also got Talia coming on out. That could be pretty interesting into the likes of a Poppy or got something certainly that can kite around these melee champions pretty well.
Yeah, and when I see these champions paired with Isaiah and seeing what Pepper was able to do in game number 1, I mean, there is way more disrupt and navigation for Zaya to play fights than there was even in game number 1. Sometimes that results in anti-synergy, right? I think about the cask maybe misplacing with the feathers, but ultimately, like, you have so much space for Zaya to move in these fights, and you called it out of Kaisa being a short-range marksman there that kind of needs to go in. I mean, I wouldn't want to be having Kaisa ult if I was DreadKnights ADC here in game number 2.
Yeah, it feels like so many landmines that this team has to navigate coming out from the Trojans. You got the Sejuani ulti, you got Gragas casts, you got Nautilus hooks and ultis, you got Talia shoves that can just come over from the middle of nowhere. And we've seen from the previous games that these players seem to be very comfortable executing on their champions' win conditions. So team fighting does look maybe a little bit thorny from the DreadKnights, but they do
Yeah.
have an all-new draft coming in here. So we'll see whether these champions will have success that they weren't quite able to find in the first game.
I mean, that is something to name, Potato. You called it out. 5 new champions, completely different look from game number 1, when they seem to really focus around a team fight style and appealing support. This time, you're seeing that their support drop dead Phantom. Phantom's going to go on a much more aggressive, enabling kind of support with the Rakan. And yeah, maybe similar style with a control mage mid, but everything else feels a little bit different of a puzzle here. Meanwhile, Trojans actually, in their first 2 picks, locked the same 2 choices from the last game. And something else that was banned away got picked up this time. So it's anything but comfort for DreadKnight, maybe. And it's, I think, anything and comfort for St. Trojan, as the SAIT squad has gone back to a very similar draft here in game 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious here, if you're the DreadKnights, if you're trying to come back in the second game, where do you find your win conditions being? Because I think for Trojans, their answers are pretty clear. I mean, you have a ton of catch, you have great team fighting prowess from your carries who have been shown to be able to deliver. I think the identity of DreadKnights comp is a little bit more unclear to me. So, if you were coaching this team, leading this team, where would you have them looking?
If I'm the DreadKnight squad, I mean, you really have to kill Pepper. I mean, Pepper got to a point that they were absolutely unkillable, right? Potato, like, this Zaya was insane, got 5 items, and no pressure was onto them at all, right? Like, it felt like that entire game. I don't think I saw Zach really gank bot, maybe more than once. So if I'm coaching this squad up and I'm thinking about how can we really shut them down, it's like use this Rakan agency in lane and Poppy's pressure to gank bot on the aggression that I'm expecting to see out of a tank support like Nautilus. Nautilus does nothing if they just stand there in lane, with the exception of maybe looking a little bit scary. So I'm hoping to see a squad that DreadKnight is able to commit more resources down bot lane, because I think that's really your winning solution. I mean, you can kill this ADC at least once. That's going to be better than last game.
That's true. The 1 is greater than 0. That's factual. And yeah, I guess bot lane, does feel like a pretty gankable lane overall. I mean, Gragas kind of a rock there in the mid lane. Way maybe not the greatest follow-up champion, but yeah, you got the you got the CC from the Rakan, you got the burst from the Zaya. So yeah, maybe we can end up seeing some action down there. And Poppy, you're a Poppy enjoyer. Champion kind of has deceptively high damage on their early combos.
It really does, and I mean, very similar to Skarner even, does more damage if you hit a wall with the champion that you're pulling with you, with the steadfast presence there. So I think the Poppy damage is very deceptive, as you're saying, and you also don't need to go damage on the champion. I think you can go for a very supportive style. However, when I'm looking at this composition and I'm seeing really these two kind of beefy boys on the top side and a tankier support Rakan, I wonder if you're trying to let Rakan go things like the Knight's Vow and instead Poppy maybe go into at least one piece of damage just to be another threat in the back line. Because I think if Poppy's tanky and the only damage they have to deal with in the back line is Kaisa, it does make these fights a little, as you said, more precarious for this DreadKnight squad in game two.
Yeah, and I have seen kind of all sorts of Poppy builds coming up. I mean, I've seen things like Dark Harvest and Eclipse. I've seen, maybe more traditional take Poppy. If you were piloting here, do you have a preferred build you enjoy?
Preferred build for the Poppy.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think you go Bomby Cinder early. Honestly, if I'm Poppy here, I'm probably going for, just the tanky. What's that? Sheen item. The one, the little tanky Sheen boy.
Iceborne Gauntlet, Frost.
Yeah, that's
All those
the
boys.
frozen glove, right? That's probably where I'm looking.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Well, we got just a couple more seconds until both of these champions are going to be loading onto the Rift. Gonna have a bit of spectator delay, so just sit back for a quick moment while we wait to catch up and see you on the other side.
While you're waiting, get those channel points in. It's live. Make it happen. See you in a moment.
All right, welcome to game 2 as we have a flash burn from Fable right off the bat. We do have this time not the calm 5-point we saw in the first game. We have the DreadKnights on the red side once again looking to turn around, even up the series, stay in these playoffs. Blue side, the Trojans running it back with a pretty similar team comp as last time, looking to close this one out 2-0.
They're trying to close it out, and you're right, it's not a 5-point, but very similar to game number 1, we do actually have another pause on the Rift, unfortunately. So, it'll be just a moment as maybe mid laner's disconnected once again.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, last time, it was just that one time at the start of the game, so no DDoSing as the games end up going on. But maybe they got the Comcast internet. Maybe they're being a little bit bullied by broadband. Who's to say? But looks like we've gone back into the game now. Hamster issues comes out in the all chat. It looks like all 5 players are ready on both sides.
And our game is about to be ready as well after the little bit of an unfortunate pause. So hopefully, as the spectator delay continues, we'll be able to get back into this game. But we're talking about a similar style, I think, for this SAIT squad. And again, if you're the team who wins, you don't really need to be adapting too much. And it is forcing the other squad to make changes to find success. Accident could be in a little bit of trouble here. These 3 members are very
Getting real
stoic.
deep, getting pinched in the middle of 4 champions. We'll have to burn the flash here if they want to stay alive. But no, first blood going on to Mistake. So it might be the flash burn from Fable earlier, but it's going to be Oxen eating their first death. Urgot not quite going to get the chance to reset, not unless he wants to burn the TP anyways. But you're going to take that 400 gold in the pocket and be very happy about it.
Absolutely, you will be here. 400 gold just for burning the flash from Fable earlier on. AJ actually going to get a little bit of early vision now, too. You see if there's more action level 1, but looks like just a little bit of vision.
Yeah, looks like potentially a bot lane play coming out here too. Grafuko hiding in the bushes. Gonna get spotted out by that ward though, picking up some nice money to finish that one out. We actually have a lot of wards expended in their own jungle from the side of the DreadKnights, just trying to make sure they're staying extra safe after that a little bit of invade action going on. But looks like first hook going on down, gonna be countered right away though. No feather pull available just yet, but Bam eating up about half their health bar, so taking a pretty punishing combo to start off the lane.
It really is punished here as well. As you're saying, Bam at half health, Pepper about to hit level 2 with these next 3 minions. Will give a timer for Grafuko. I think you could even look for potentially a flash here. If you can get the feather pull in, I think there is an angle. Grafuko might be looking for something here. There's a level 2. Maybe it's on the Phantom, but just keeps walking back in a straight line and is completely fine.
Yeah, just going a little bit wide there, but I do think like this is a lane where I feel like the Dreadknight bot lane is going to be a little bit counter. I mean, Kai'Sa's a little bit outranged, and then Rakan, it's hard to play into the Nautilus. If you engage, you get locked down, you eat up a lot of your HP. If they engage first, you don't have particularly spectacular counter engage options onto the enemy team. Also, Fable looks like they want to take a little bit of a jaunt into the opposing topside jungle, but unfortunately for him, my time is now having already cleared the topside, so just going to have to do the walk of shame back onto their own bot side, unless maybe they're looking for Oxen?
The single isn't the best, but maybe it will.
You know, those rocks on the ground were kind of looking at him the wrong way, and Mithrandir taking a lot of punishment there. But yeah, just cues the ground, continues on. It doesn't lose too much time for it, so
No,
nothing lost, I suppose.
yeah, the mid gang didn't lose time, but what did was that invade. It was level 2. Only 2 camps that Fable's taken so far on this Poppy so far versus the 5, almost 6 camps that Sejuani has. This is a major deficit for Poppy early on. And without that flash, you have to play so carefully here. You give away your current pathing and your trajectory. And now look at these additional wards that are onto Poppy. I think if you're the side of this SAIT squad, you might look to try to invade. This Trojan horse could start charging in if you're going to see a nether play. But instead, they're just going to let Poppy farm up safely. And Fable, I think, escaped with a little bit of murder there.
Yeah, gonna Phantom there, nice cover to try and ward off against some invade attempts. They did have the ball lane pro there, so I think it was certainly possible. Sejuani may be looking for a gank there on the mid lane. Nicely timed flash from Mithrandir, but this is going to guarantee them the double scuttle. If they find the Raptors, that could be even a topside denial. But fortunately for Fable, looks like that's not going to be taken away just yet. But this Sejuani well ahead in pacing.
And like we talked about in the top lane, the mistake did get the 400 gold advantage early on, but has yet to spend it. So is still equally on the same playing field as AJ top lane. Fable now in the area, but only level 3. Grafuko did get spotted now, and they might try to force him to this Nautilus.
Yeah, here's this bot lane gank you were talking about. Nautilus does get knocked up into the wall, but the damage is split, almost turned right back against Bam as Pepper takes away so much of Kai'Sa's HP. The focus was not quite there together. The Rakan knockup missing, Kai'Sa not hitting there. So Nautilus not going to lose anything to that gank. Fable losing even more time on that bot side.
An immediate reset now from my time is now. I think really good recognition from the blue side's jungle here. SAIT Trojans jungler doing a great job at deciding that I can't re-sequence my top side. I need to get bot now. And so by taking a reset and running in with their bot lane, actually able to force the red side off of this dragon. And it feels like Drop Dead DreadKnights, similar to game number 1, is not able to play for these early dragons.
Yeah, brilliant timing here from the Trojans. I mean, in both games, just using such good use of their reset timers, knowing when the DreadKnights need to base to take these uncontested dragons. I'm really happy to see this coming out.
I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, yeah, it's only a Chemtech, but still really nice. What this means now for Sejuani is she's going to have a reverse clear up to this top side on the grub timer. And I think that's another great time to make something happen. Yes, that at least this reset is matched from Fable on this jungle Poppy, but the gold is not close. So look at the camp difference now, just even in the CS department, it is about 300 gold spend. And the difference here is between having a Bomby Cinder and only having a Ruby Crystal plus a little bit of move speed.
Yeah, Fable maybe going to be caught out by Oxen here, or is the Talia the one to be caught out instead? There goes the rocks, there goes the shove, everything missing. Looks like Poppy wants to find it onto Fable. The CC chain misses from Mithrandir. Drop Dead Phantom wants to find a little something extra, but the rest of the team is no longer there, so just going to scurry on
Nautilus coming now.
Yeah, maybe they want to play for some grubs. Grafuko there is in the area. AJ level 6, but kind of low on mana. Looks like both people are just going to check each other out a little bit in this upper side and then go for the grub spawn.
Grub spawn looks like will be the choice. Grafuko still in the area, but is standing on a ward. We see that there is the Weaver's Wall available for Talia if we want to see a contest happen. My time is now. Looks like just happy to farm up for level 6. And we'll actually give these first grubs over. So similar to the first game, we're seeing first dragon for first grubs. However, a lot of resources around that area just to make sure they did secure the other side of the map neutral objective.
Yeah, Poppy continued to invest a lot of time to look for these ganks, look for these objectives. The CS gap still pretty significant here in the jungle, 18 CS, as we look at the Sejuani able to clear away 6 more camps towards the completion of their jungle item. So scaling up pretty high there, maybe looking potentially for early level 6 play while the junglers are mismatched in XP.
That's what I'd like to see. I mean, I think this next camp should be level 6 for Sejuani, and I expect to see this player being very, very close. 98% will actually get on that minion. So now level 6. Meanwhile, Fable still level 5. They're going to look to fight in the bot side as well, though.
Pepper level 6 as well. Nice dodge from the pullback is from Bam. There's the Ghost Burn from both ADCs. Bam trying to find the chase. Pepper flashing over the wall. Kind of afraid there. Was a little bit uncertain whether the chase would have ended up working or not. Grafuko was able to buy a lot of space, but there we go. Phantom caught again by a nice dredged line. The Nautilus proving its value in this support counter pick matchup.
Absolutely proving value here, Potato. I mean, this is a very great answer into this Nautilus, and we're seeing it pay dividends. Pepper, I think, as you called out, was scared and did flash, but I don't think they needed to. So it is a cooldown timer that could be punished. Poppy now on the bot side here as well, but still down a level. Bam, half health and half mana.
They were potentially looking for a dive play, but this Poppy is so weak, has nothing available. The Sejuani still has ult the whole time. And there we go. Phantom may be falling for a second time. Bam will not have the DPS here just quite yet. There's the Feather pullback from Feather, finding it. 1 HP left on Oxen, still surviving against the Hui. The snipe does not quite come through, and now Sejuani is ready to turn things around. The CC chain misses again, and Oxen gets out with their life. It's going to be Mithrandir who falls instead. And this top bot side jungle is going to be dominated by the Trojans. Fable respawns. The death timer is so short at this point in time. Takes down another one. Maybe looking for another continuation of the play. Here comes Nautilus. He's going to get caught out a little bit. Does have flash escape. Does burn it. So looks like the rest of their topside jungle is going to be secured, but quite an extended engagement and bloody on both sides.
It really was, and I think ultimately SAIT just played it a little bit better. Can't lie about that. I thought that Pepper might have gone down. I said that had to be your focus, but the team was not in the area. Bam tried to trade auto attacks with this Xayah here, but Pepper able to kite on out.
Ooh, yeah, and the ultimate gets used from mistake, burning down against the Gragas. not going to be able to get that pullback top laner surviving by just a thin margin, just like they were in the first game. There's a lot of brawls going on up here, and at any moment we might get another solo kill coming on through. It looks like Urgot going to take a very safe reset here. Second dragon spawning soon as well.
Yeah, as Trader said, the most important health is the last one. And that seemed to be the case in the top lane now. Mistake without a teleport means they have to decide right now, will you play the dragon 4v4 or will you start running down? With a crashing wave, looks like Gragas is going to reset. AJ might have the first move. Urgot cannot let this tower just die and have plates go down, so is forced to respond top, meaning there's no way for this top laner to make it to help the DreadKnights there at the second drag.
Yeah, I think if they really wanted to force the dragon, they could have potentially looked for something like a 5-man play and have Mithrandir cover the top wave instead with their TP. I mean, Gragas, not the most incredible tower breaker, but looks like they are just going to go for this traditional 4v4. Still lacking in levels a little bit, though. Both supports, crucially, neither of them level 6 just yet. Poppy did hit that level 6, so very necessary for this upcoming team fight. But Sejuani also already finishing up their first item, securing their Scuttle Crab. Phantom fishing for something here in the river. Gonna get hooked up and maybe rooted up. Is that pull good? Yes, it is. Pepper going to probably find another one there. There's the last auto coming on in, and now Fable caught by the shove of the Talia, caught in the middle of 4 members. Mithrandir trying to offer the DPS support, not gonna be able to find it. Bam, one auto away from finishing out the Nala's, but forced to flash out for their own life. A flash smite to put in some insult to injury there, and that's gonna be another team clean team fight even coming out for the Trojans, and the Dragon's going to be their reward.
And Trojans do not let up at all, continuing to live with just a sliver across the map. The fights are going their way. Trojans seem to be taking a dominating second game advantage. We saw in game number 1, it was 4-0. This time 7-2. So a little bit more of an accelerated pacing now. And it's a Cloud Soul we'll be having on the Rift here in game 2.
Yeah, and it feels like the Trojans are just playing a more principled game here. Earlier in that bot side scuffle, what we saw was it all started with a catch onto Phantom. They knew they had the numbers advantage for a potential dive threat and invade threat. They knew they had the level advantage on their jungler as well, so they were confident walking into the jungle, and they were rewarded with a proper team fight. This time, they had the control in the dragon area. The Phantom ended up having to blind face check, gets caught out for his troubles, and now they're turning for the grubs, maybe trying to look for a top lane pick, but AJ is very tanky on this Gragas.
Yeah, even with only AP items, this fat boy is not getting damaged at all. Neither support was level 6, but now both of them just hit that. But the difference in here is that you're seeing how under-leveled they are compared to some of these other members on the team. You saw how fast Phantom died, and now Mithrandir are forced to run, but Phantom's the area and does have the quickness.
Yeah, and the shove is good. Phantom gets interrupted by the rocks from Talia as well, so probably going to be forced to abandon their mid laner. No, does dive in to try and save them, but Mithrandir running straight into enemy territory. There is no direction that is safe here. Potentially going to try and go for an execute, but 15 seconds is a long time to wait. Are they going to burn sums for this? Surely not, right? Trying to go to the tower. Okay, Oxen is going to be the one burning sums instead. Grafuko running in, gets the auto, gets the tower. Kill donated over to the dollar. So I guess you'll take that outcome if you're Mithrandir.
Yeah, I mean, Mithrandir forced a flash from Talia and the kill into Nautilus. I mean, I think kind of the best amount of time you could have asked for.
Yeah, burn some time from the opposing forces as well. But now as we take a look at the game state, the goal difference maybe not super dramatic right now, but this is one scary Xayah 4-0 already. We had a great performance from Pepper in the previous game. Looks to be repeated in this second game as well. And my time is now. This first pick, Sejuani, seems to be working out real well for them.
It sure does. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. These are two players that were standouts in game 1, and like you're saying, game 2, they picked it. These two picks once again, game 1 and or B1 and B2, and once again they're finding similar success. And so, I mean, Pepper is showing dominance on the Xayah here, and I think is really a critical pick for their team's success too for these SAIT Trojans.
Yeah, absolutely. Gonna have no trouble chewing through the front line that the DreadKnights are going to be tossing at them. We have a bit of a wait now. while the next objectives get set up for
Oh,
both teams
Axon.
posturing potentially for some vision. Actually getting dropped down a little bit low. Some vision play around here on the top side. Sejuani, Nautilus hunting around in the area. Looks like Pink Ward is going to go over to the DreadKnights. Rift Herald started up, but we do have Pepper joining up in the area soon as well. So 1v1 in the bot lane does dodge out from the shove.
Oh
But
no.
Bam burning down pretty quickly, gets stunned up from the Talia rocks, and that last large rock is going to make sure that the ADC does not live to see another auto attack. Rift Herald burning really low. My time is now going to try and find the smite, but here comes the team fight. The charm goes out from the Rakan, but immediately going to get cut down by Pepper, who is firing away, untouched, unfazed, and there's AJ on the backside, on the Gragas, there's the cast. Fable gets flipped in the middle of 4 members, going to go down immediately. There's a Sejuani ultimate layering on the backside as well. Every single ability getting so much value here. Nobody seems to want to finish off this play. Finally going to get buffed by the Fat Man. AJ picking up another one, but another good team fight for the Trojans. Looks like everything is coming up positive for them in this game too.
They did lose the Herald, but the team fight was great. Fable tried to use the Keeper's Verdict to deny the entrance from Time Is Now, but that time was short. And when Sejuani returned to the fight, they knew they had the numbers to take the fight. They did exactly that. And like you said, things are coming up positive for the SAIT Trojans after such a game 1 domination in that performance. This game 2 looks even more one-sided here for the Trojans.
Yeah, so point spawning for them once again. I mean, that last fight, Phantom did find some CC onto Pepper, but there was just no way for the rest of the team to get onto this ADC, and now 6-0 untouched. They were able to pump out so much damage. Rakan getting stunned up by those Talia rocks on the way back, and things were just only going to go downhill from there. Fable looking for a gank onto the top side. AJ getting a little bit low. Does have flash available, though. There's the flash stun from the Poppy. There's the cast coming in. Shutdown does go on over to the jungler. So at least a nice pickup on this part of the map. Hopefully we'll get to see a trade of the top tower here in exchange for the dragon.
That's what I'd like to see. And with this dragon spawning, the third dragon, you're going to be in a similar situation from game number 1, where you basically have to start fighting. Otherwise, you're giving over a soul. This time a little bit less impactful, but I like this cross map from the top jungle duo of these drop dead DreadKnights. They say we cannot fight the dragon. We cannot contest the rest of their bot side here. What we can do is get a pick and play for an inner. And with these available objective bounties, it's even more valuable here. So yes, the gold is still in favor of SAIT, but drop dead DreadKnights refusing to say uncle now. Maybe this is a little bit too deep as Fable's taking 6 tower
like
shots in a row.
A overdrive, and here comes the TP in from Oxen as well. AJ looking for the chase, no big barrel available, but there's the flash body slam. Mistake going to try and keep themselves alive, but it's a great shove coming in from Oxen, who's going to be able to get another pick up there. A good look to get trade 2 towers, 2 objective shutdowns in exchange for the dragon, but definitely a bit of an overstay. And now it's going to be the inner under pressure. Pepper getting fired up against, but the damage is just not quite there. Burns the OT. Kaisa OT still available, I think, and there we go.
There it
they
is.
Start nice flash away from the root from Grafuko and a double flash away from the bot lane. Does get knocked up by the Rakan, but here comes another TP. AJ is ready to join in. The damage just not there, and here is going to be a 2-man body slam, and the bot lane is just going to fall. There's just not enough in the tank. Unfortunately, they had a chance of a play there, but just the damage was not there, and now this bot lane inner is sure to be the next to fall. Hui gonna try and toss some abilities, but this man is just gonna be firing peanuts on over. Oxen still pushing there in the top lane without a care in the world, and what looked like a potential turnaround point is unfortunately still not gonna find any success.
Yeah, it's not payday yet for drop dead DreadKnights. They just don't have enough in their wallet to be able to take that team fight. You're seeing the fruits of the labor for the squad that is at the advantage for the Trojans. SAIT seems to just continue to find the correct plays, the correct responses crucially and critically as well. Bam wanting to be a difference maker in these fights and try to go for an angle, but just doesn't have the gas in the gas tank.
Yeah, in terms of mechanical execution on that 2v2, I mean, it was about as nice as you could have asked for. Rakan lands the knockup, lands the OT. Kaisa flashes away from the Nautilus hook, lands pretty much all the damage that she could, but unfortunately, all the damage is just not enough damage, as it turns out.
all the damage is not enough.
Yeah,
you need more than all of it.
Yeah, so 2v2 just not feasible there. Needed the support of a few more members. And I think that play could have been all right. It is a 6,000 gold lead now as we are at the 19-minute mark. Oxen maybe
Oh,
looking to get in a
offered it.
scuffle with a mistake. The knock is no good. Does burn the flash now.
Close.
Gets slowed down by ultimate. Looks like potentially gonna be the meat grinder coming on in. Doesn't even need the pullback, I guess. Just blast him down with the shotgun knees. Fable doing a bit of zoning there in the mid lane. So that's a nice bit of gold going into Urgot's pockets, who has been able to collect a fair amount. The 2 towers on the top side, both with objective bounties attached, a shutdown here and there. So
Yeah.
maybe going to be a side lane presence here, and that's something that's possible. But the core members, these mid lane and bot lane champions, they will need their gold infusion soon, or they just will not have enough to threaten the opponent members.
No, but in back-to-back games on different matchups, we continue to see the mistake be a threat in the side lane. We saw it on Darius, also was able to get a lot of damage on Axon, and now here we're seeing this Urgot into Talia and continuing to bully Axon. I think there's some kind of personal vendetta here, Potato, because it does feel like Axon is taking the brunt of this damage in the side lane. And I think Axon said, "Get me out of this bot lane now," as you're seeing AJ being the one now to respond to shotgun leg Urgot for this drop dead squad.
Yeah, I mean, I think of all the side laners, Talia does feel the most vulnerable. I think at this point, if you try to side lane against the Xayah, probably she just kills you. And
Yeah.
AJ going to be a lot less of a squishy champion for you to get bullied out. Urgot does certainly have a lot of formidable burst locked behind those shotguns there. Some Baron control going on down, a mountain of blue wards once again around this upper side objective. Soul spawning in just under 1 minute now. Definitely going to be looking for that pickup as well if you're the Trojans.
And one thing I do want to call attention to once again is Bam's build. We said maybe there's an angle where you look for AP, and you can see now it was an attack speed choice. So it does have Kraken Slayer and Terminus, both kind of focused around the attack speed options. But when we think about the upgrades, does have only the Q upgrade currently. Needs a little bit more attack speed for E upgrade. Currently sitting on 80% out of 100% bonus attack speed.
Yeah, needs to find the tier 2 boost to make that happen, but Mistake is maybe going to take a trip back to base. They're actually doing a significant amount of damage there. Looks like they might want to look for a counterplay in this mid lane tower, but Pepper is going to be able to hold down the fort. Xayah on 2.5 items now as they position for the soul, the strongest member of the DreadKnights, down for another 30 seconds, so no way that this contest is going to look possible.
Oh, but you don't need to contest it if you could just flip for the Baron.
Surely this is not real, but hey, if they can pull them by time, I think that is something that is possible. The Baron going down very slowly. The damage certainly is not there for the squad, but they seem to have gotten the Trojans interested.
Yeah,
Pulling them away from the Dragon. So in that respect, not a bad call at all.
and they got time for the mistake to spawn as well, and so maybe you can at least play for a 5v5 on the Dragon now because Urgot is back on the map and has teleport, but instead faking the resets, realizing they're getting pulled back to the Dragon, and they're going to try to start at the Baron once again.
Yeah, there's no wards remaining. The DPS, I fear, is still a little bit too shy to make this actually work out. We do have the pings coming on through Oxen and AJ, both sprinting up towards this big purple worm. They're going to get spotted out, so it's going to be 2 on this top side, 3 on the bottom side. Can they find something with the man advantage here? It is temporarily a 4v2 if they can just pull the trigger. The TP coming up to this top side. It seems like they fully want to commit to this objective. The rest of the members of the Trojans coming on through. The poppy knock is not going to be good. Once again, Urgot getting focused down. Mistake is going to fall. Rampage for the Sejuani as the other 4 members too low on HP. It was a bold call, but unfortunately just did not have enough time to be able.
Fable.
Fable wants to look
Has
for the
flash.
Ruko is there to zone. The Gragas is there to zone. A barrel straight on top of the head of the Poppy sends him right back to the grave. And now Hui is going to be the next to fall. Bam under pressure. The Sejuani ult not available, but 5 members charging down this mid lane tower with Baron buff secured.
We're starting to see SAIT Trojans dominate. Has the soul, has the Baron for 3 minutes now around their feet, and will continue to push. And the team that we thought could not lose and only dropped 1 game in the regular season is looking like they might be heading toward a quick 0-2 defeat.
Yeah, the mid lane inhibitor is going to be cracked for sure. We'll have to see if they go for more here, turning their attention to the bottom lane. Will they look for the finish here? It would be a little bit bold. Mistake charging in, trying to get some damage. Started off Fable looking for some sort of engage, but their options are just so limited. No flanks available means no threat onto the enemy champions. 2 inhibitors down now. They're going to all take their recess with Baron buff, probably go 5-man topside, crack open that triple inhib, and at just 25 minutes, that's going to be pretty much a death sentence for the DreadKnights.
And I don't even see how you find an angle whatsoever here. You just got to hope that this SAIT squad decides to sit in base for the next 10 minutes and you can just farm up those super minions that are going to start pouring into the base. Maybe if you can get some levels and experience back, you can look toward a third item. But it feels like everything but a miracle is needed at this point to try to take back this game number 2.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you're going to try and find the farm here, I think the wave clear is just too lacking from the DreadKnights. If it was this previous game with the Sivir, possibly it was something that they could look for. I mean, I once had a Sivir. We lost 3 inhibitors and they got like 400 farm and turned things around, but Kai'Sa just isn't able to match the wave clear capabilities. And at this time in the game, these super minions are going to be a verifiable threat.
I could verify a potato, that's for sure. I mean, I feel threatened by them, and I'm just watching this game.
Yeah, they got the upgrades going. They got those 2 giant plates warding off against damage, smashing through your minion lines. Looks like it's going to be the final inner tower in the sights of the Trojans. We got AJ warding off the side, 5 levels up on the opposing jungler, 8 levels up on the opposing support. That's kind of disgusting, if I say so myself. Pepper hammering away at the tower, not a care in the world as these 2 frontliners buy them space.
Holy smokes. Level 18 to level 16 to level 8. I mean, Flame Horizon almost in the level department, potato.
Yeah, that is true. And now we have members of the DreadKnights getting pulled away for wave clear duty as they just cannot walk up to contest this whatsoever. The carry is able to free hit this last inhibitor. You got to take a fight sometime to try and hold, but unfortunately, the options are just so limited. Like, what can you do? How do you pull the trigger here?
You have to just look for a Fable ultimate to separate the fight and take the numbers advantage. We'll see if a Steadfast Presence will be channeled because now the Nexus towers are in trouble.
Yeah, Super Minions crashing in. The Weaver's Wall going to split the team into 2. A nice flash from Fable is going to prevent the stun. There goes Rakan, but there goes Rakan back into the grave as Fable is next to follow. Mistake is sure to fall. A double kill now for the Xayah, looking for a triple kill. Grafuko finding the hook, not quite going to land. The Sejuani ult landing a little bit wide, but looks like they don't need more kills. They just need the base. Looking for more. Nonetheless, is there going to be another pullback? There's a Xayah ulti. Not quite going to burn through the shield of Vithrandir, but doesn't need to. Bam, going to try and look for last desperate play on the side, but that's just not going to be enough damage. The Nexus explodes for the second time, 22-4, and it's going to be a dominating victory for the Trojans.
22-4. Pepper did not die that entire series, potato.
No, Pepper did not. Pepper brought in the spicy gameplay, and I think the DreadKnights are feeling the heat there.
Absolute clinic from this squad, it felt like, especially the bot lane, who went deathless and kept Bam and Phantom off the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm impressed not just by their individual play, but the team play, the decision making was just, I feel, really good throughout. All the engagements that they took seemed to be really smart. They either had the vision or the setup. They had some manner of advantage for their team that guaranteed that the play was going to be more favorable than not. In game 1, they had a series of really smart trades to inject gold into their mid laner while the opponent picked up their first 2 dragons under the pressure of soul point. So I just really liked a lot of the things that I saw from this squad.
It felt very, very high level, like from these map rotations, like you're calling out, like these team fights and setup, how AJ was really able to have massive impact on this Gragas hitting level 16 at the end of that game. I mean, just felt like this squad was pretty unstoppable and really gave very, very few angles to the DreadKnights to try to find anything here in this series.
Yeah, an admirable contest from DreadKnights, especially in that first game, trying to find chances. Some really good individual play. I mean, we had some great individual moments of execution there, but unfortunately, the team play just not quite up to the same level as the Trojans tonight, but a good attempt nonetheless. I'm excited to see what these 2 teams can continue to do in the playoffs.
100%. I mean, that's a great point to make that neither of these two teams are out, even our losers here. And actually, as an advantage for Drop Dead DreadKnights, they would have been going against the round one seed here, UNCC Team White. However, that team has dropped from playoffs, meaning they basically get a bye in the first round of the knockout stage. And because of that, they'll actually be playing the losers of round six, which is shaping up to be LC Kodiak's Adaptive versus the winner of Acer Squadron and SNC Space Sloths. So that's a couple of exciting matchups to continue to look forward to. Meanwhile, our winners here, these SAIT Trojans, are going to be playing the mighty Pandas. We'll have to see which Trojan or Panda might come out on top here next week here in the Void series in Style Esports.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was told before the series these were the fourth and fifth teams coming into the playoffs. And if this is already the level of play we're seeing, I think the first couple seeds must be surely very intimidating. But hey, maybe there's room for some upsets as the playoffs continue. Hopefully, you'll tune in future weeks to catch those. But meanwhile, thanks so much for joining us today. I had a blast. These were some real fun games to catch.
They absolutely were. There's going to be more action on the Rift here for Style Esports, even Sunday. We're going to see Sunday at 7 p.m. EST. We're going to see Peak Ruby versus Drexful Dragons at D2. And that same evening at 9:30 EST, Chaotic Solar versus Regression. So very exciting League of Legends still to come this weekend on Style Esports. Before series tonight, that's going to do it for myself, Llama, and All Out Potato, who brought you the action this evening on Style Esports.
Thanks so much for joining. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. See you guys next time.